Welcome, future masters. So, we have a great position to show you. It's from Bobby. If you don't know who that is, well, you're probably a young guy who hasn't heard about him yet. So, it's Bobby Fischer. So, whenever you hear the name Bobby, you know who it is in chess. There's only one. Any other guy, no matter how good they are, they'd say his name. He's like Tiger. When you're talking golf and you talk Tiger, everyone knows who you're talking about. So we're talking about Bobby, and we all know who we're talking about. So when I tell you about these problems, this one you're not going to solve this on your own. I'm going to explain this and show it to you, but we're going to look at this with the four elements: checks, captures, piece contacts, and board situation. Checks, none. That was easy. Captures, well, queen can take knight, pawn, or rook. Bishop can take pawn, that is all. We have four captures, 1, 2, 3, 4 possible captures. No checks. Well, that's two of them. Piece contact, that means, pieces moving like rook to e4, queen to c5, or just things of that nature. Anything, pawn moving forward, the b pawn, the d pawn, the bishop could move to f6, rook could go to f3 or whatever. None of these are really, spectacular. Pawn f3 or f4, pawn h4, king to whatever. So these four elements will help you in your own games when you're stuck, you don't know what to do. Well, just look at the elements and try to figure out what's going on. So board situation is the last one. And as most cases, the board situation is super important. And this one, the material is even. Black has 3 pieces, we have 3 pieces. 5 pawns to 5 pawns. So the thing that stands out from this context is that white has a passed pawn. Black has a 2 versus 1 on the queen side, the b and c pawns versus the b pawn. So the only dominant element of this position is the d6 passed pawn. So there are guidelines of passed pawns. One of them is rooks belong behind passed pawns. Knights can blockade passed pawns, or any piece can blockade them, but knights are extremely good at blockading from in front of the pawn. Also, passed pawns must be pushed, as I forgot who said it, but it's a famous grandmaster. We're from way back. So we've all heard it before. So these are the main guidelines of passed pawns. As white to play, we're not going to worry about a blockade of this pawn on d7. So we're thinking rooks belong behind the passed pawn. Well, that doesn't work, as you can see. The other one will be passed pawns must be pushed. So if we push this, what happens? Well, it looks like black will gang up on this. Since we have a dark square bishop, the light square is unprotectable by this bishop. He cannot protect anything, and this rook cannot get to d5. That's impossible. So if we play d7, we got to know something. Now we could play bishop takes g7, and that just wins a pawn. But it gives up this pawn as well. So if we went d7 and he goes rook to b7, we could play bishop takes pawn, and we're just trading pawns. That doesn't really work, because he would just play rook takes, and having these pieces doubled on this file, white's in bad shape. Okay. The thing is this. It's too complicated to explain this. I just have to show it to you. I explain it after you see it. Bobby is Bobby. He's a legend because he could do things that normal grandmasters would not even think were possible, because he just had, I talk about my spidey senses. His spidey senses are like mine, and times 100. He's like, I can play d7. And people are going, you can't. That's a stupid move. I'm sure that when they saw this, that this guy, he blew it. He's lost his mind. Well, he lost his mind later on, but that was after he became world champion, not before. So the thing is, Bobby saw this concept, and it's a hard one to see because it's a 2-for-1. He's going to play an interference move. And it has another aspect to it, which it's also a clearance move. And the clearance is the killer part because it opens up the rook. All right? So now you see it. Let's go backwards so we can see the motion. So he goes backwards. Let's just do the whole thing. All right, we're going to... Bobby pushes the pawn. Nobody else can figure this out. It is, not nobody, but so few. But once you've seen this concept now, it sits in your brain. It's like, oh, man, this is awesome. So he does what we thought. He would gang up on it. I mean, who wouldn't? That's the right move. That's why Bobby is Bobby and we're us, okay? But he played this unbelievable interference move. It interferes with the capture of this pawn. And it also clears out the file, allowing this rook to move with the threat of queening. So now he's like, oh, dude, I'm screwed. There's nothing he could do. At this, at some point he played bishop to c7, and you know that black is a good player, obviously, because these are international tournaments they're playing. He saw it, but no one saw it until after bishop c7 was played. That's the difference. But after you see bishop c7, everybody can see what's happening. But it's realizing way back here, and Bobby sees this in advance. Okay, this is the thing. So if you've seen these games, Bobby has seen this position all the way to its conclusion before he gets to what we're looking at here, and that's why he's the legend. All the legends are like that: Kasparov, Magnus, those other guys that you have seen that are really tremendous players. They see things moves ahead of where normal grandmasters are seeing these. Interference with clearance, unbelievable. It's what is known as the quiet move, because all it does is just, I'm going to move this bishop and I'm going to stick this right in between your pieces, so you can capture it any way you want. But every way you capture this bishop, you lose. Queen takes bishop, queen, pawn equals queen, check, loses. Rook takes bishop, rook to e8, check, loses. So this is the thing. This is what separates the legends. They see these things because of their work and their practice before normal grandmasters see them. So it's not that this position itself is impossible to see. I guarantee you he saw this possibility was winning 4 or 5 moves at least ahead of this position, if not more. And that's why grandmasters are grandmasters. They see things tactically. Their range of visualization is crazy. Like yesterday, I did a problem where I had a 13-move visualization problem. Now, like this one, there's not a lot of pieces. So the visualization for this is not as intricate as some other ones that are truly amazing. So the 13 that I had, I think, was easier than this one. Because this one, what I used things that I had seen before, sacrifices and checks, sacrificing exchanges and it's all things I have seen before. Those are elements of attacking play. But this move, this bishop to c7, this is a monster move that you don't see these kind of moves very often. So this is I just can't, describe it any better. It's just unbelievable. Unbelievable is the correct word. It's unbelievable. The guy plays this move, and you're like, nobody can play. How do you play this? You can't do. You can't do. Yeah, he can. He just did it. Oh, you're killing me, man. You're killing me. So this is the thing. The point is, it's not to try to figure this out. We have the luxury of looking backwards in time to this move of Bobby Fischer. That is, one of the descriptions you could give it is it's a move from the gods of chess. It's one of the greatest moves that you'll ever see. Bishop to c7 doesn't take anything, doesn't check anybody, just screws up his whole position. It's unbelievable. So hopefully I helped you out and let you into some of the secrets of the legend himself. Now you have an idea a little better of why, to me, Bobby is the #1 player. And my other choice is, if not Bobby, then it's got to be Garry Kasparov. Other people, primarily younger guys, will say Magnus, and he's another fantastic choice because, to me, when we talk about the greatest in a game, the greatest players, the ultra legends, they do things that nobody else has ever done. Bobby Fischer had his 20-game win streak in the playoffs against grandmasters, as they were also trying to win the world championship. He faced Spassky in the championship, a player he had never beaten in his life. He lost the first game, he forfeited the second game, and then after that, he gave Spassky the beating of his life. Literally the beating of his life, and the guy was a phenomenal player. It's just those are two things that are just individually mind blowers. Kasparov, he beat the robot. He beat Karpov 3 times, a guy that nobody could beat except Kasparov. And not only did he beat him, they kept finagling rematches so that he'd somehow win and gain his title back. Failed every time. So Kasparov beat Karpov 3 times by small margins each match, but he won those matches, cementing his greatness there in itself. But in the 90s, he came along and played and defeated the Deep Blue supercomputer, the last man to do such a thing, because after that they had upgraded the computer and the program. It's unbeatable. No human can beat the supercomputers anymore. Kasparov was the last of the grandmasters to beat the top computers, because once again, he's an ultra legend. He did something that no one has ever done or will ever do, which is in itself just a staggering achievement. Now, it's not fair to discount another player because they did not beat a supercomputer like Deep Blue, because it's no longer available. So we don't say, well, you're not as good as Kasparov because you didn't beat the Deep Blue. We don't worry about the things you don't do. You have to say the things that you have done. Magnus himself has the highest rating of all time, which is in itself something no one else has ever done. But to me, I'm relying on the other things, the other intangibles. But, to me, those 3 are the only ones that really, really stand in consideration. There's a lot of other phenomenal players, but they're not the best. So in my mind, 1 and 2, depending, you can choose I don't care what order. It's either Bobby or Garry. They're the best. But Magnus is up there, and you can make your case. If he's your favorite and you say he's #1, I can't say you're wrong. But I'm going to say I'm Bobby Fischer all the way. But I mean, Kasparov is to me right there. I would pay money, and I don't pay money to watch chess. I would pay money to watch a match between Kasparov and Fischer. That one I would pay to see, and I don't pay to watch chess. That's just me. So that's how phenomenal that match would be. Because those are just two lions of the chessboard. So hopefully this helped give you some insight into one of the ultra legends of the game. Please like the video, subscribe if you haven't subscribed. We'll get more stuff like this. I'll see you guys later.